Welcome back. If this is the first time you've seen any of my videos, what you're about to see is what I've termed the Barber method. I call it the Barber method because I picked it up in the barber school in Salt Lake City, Utah, under the tutelage of Timothy Height. He was my instructor. He is now passed on from this world. He's been teaching or involved in barbering really since the 50s. And so everything that I'm teaching you comes from the skills that I acquired learning from him. So, as you know, if you've seen my videos, if not, what you're about to see is the guardless method of cutting hair. And what we're going to do today is we're going to do a low fade. So let's get our terms straight. This doesn't mean that I'm not the person who defines these haircut terms, but just so you're clear, what I consider a low fade is a fade that exposes skin up to a certain point on the head. So a low fade would be that the skin only comes up to a low level up the side of the head, and then a medium fade that skin exposure would come up higher, about midway, probably about, I would say, an inch or so above the ear. While a low fade comes probably, depending on who's doing it, anywhere from just above the ear to like a half an inch above the ear. And then a high fade obviously goes way up high, almost as the head curves over the top. So this is a low fade. This client asked for a little tighter this time. He likes that more youthful look. He's got really great hair. Normally we do just a regular gentleman's cut like the videos. If you've seen my first video, I've got a gentleman's cut that I do there, but he wants it tighter, so we're gonna do a low fade, and we start in the back. Barber method always starts in the back, and as you can see, we are scooping. The first thing we do is scoop, but we're going higher. We know it's going to be typically if it was a normal haircut, we would have just scooped out the bottom and then taken some bulk out. But because we know this is a low fade, we're going a little more aggressively as we come up. But again, I'm not putting any guards on. I'm just feeling it out. There's another type of fade I didn't mention. That's like a taper fade, and that's very low on the head. But it's sort of a seamless fade from bottom all the way to the upper portion. It's a good look. So we're, like we do normally, we're going to take that bulk out of the back after we did the back there. I think I'm going to end up taking that a little bit higher, but for now, we're just getting through the haircut. There we go. If you've barbered for a long time, then you can relate that sometimes when you get talking, you just kind of go on, your hands go on autopilot. So that might have been what was going on there. Okay, so as always, the barber method is that we start in the back, the lower part of the back. We take some bulk out a little bit higher near the crown. Then, of course, we move to the right side. And if you want to do the left side next, that's fine, whatever. But the point is that you have a pathway that your client knows that you always follow. And this client is used to me, all my clients are used to me following the exact same method. It's the only method I've ever used. And as you can see, the only thing we're using is a clipper and a comb. That's it. The only time we pull out the shears is when we start working on the top and blending in maybe some of the side to the top. But other than that, no guards, just muscle memory. There we go, with a little clipper over comb work here, just kind of got a good angle on it. And you can't, I don't know how well you can see it, but what we're really trying to do here is we're trying to lift the hair to the point where we're connecting it with the hairs before. And I've got my comb in alignment to his hair pattern. Notice how his hair flows. The direction his hair flows is the direction I want to cut the hair, so that it lays down seamlessly. No ledges, no cut lines. You've watched any of my videos, you know. If not, well, you heard it here first. So watch how I hold the comb, watch how I hold the clippers, because this is normally I wouldn't necessarily pull these trimmers out until the very end, but because we're going so tight, I want to get that down and get that fade finished up so that we can, right now you can't see it, I'm just basically just barely putting a little bit of a straightening out the line coming forward off the side of his head there. Not really important, not even really necessary. But there we go. Okay, so now you can see how tight I want it. You see how it's roughly, its skin, roughly, what is that, maybe a 3/8 of an inch above his ear. And now I'm going to take my clippers off that skin point and I'm going to lift it up. I'm going to scoop, use that scooping motion. And really at this point it's more of a shuffle on his hair, just kind of slowly working that up. And then after I have worked maybe about a 1/2 inch up the side of his head, just kind of going up and then pulling away ever so gradually. And this is going to be something you want to do very slowly to start with, because you're building a muscle memory in your hand to be able to do this without having to think about it. And then once you get it pulled away a little bit, now you're ready to grab the comb, pick up where you left off, and finish that clipper work that way. It looks really simple, doesn't it? Well, if you've tried this, you know you're not going to be able to go this fast. I'll say it that way. I just did a demonstration at a barber school, and there was a kid in that school who was known for just taking way too long for his haircuts. And after I showed this method, I asked for volunteers to see who thinks that they could do it. They all raised their hand and said, who's ready to do it on me? And nobody did, but somebody reluctantly volunteered, and it happened to be the guy that took forever for his haircuts. And typically this kid couldn't cut hair in under an hour. He utilized the Barber method and cut my hair in 30 minutes. And he was pleasantly surprised by that. Where the Barber method is about getting the 2 of 3 options people have at a barbershop, right? You can get it fast, you can get it quality, you can get it cheap, but you only get 2. You want to be the kind of barber that gets fast and quality so that you can charge what you want and what you're worth. So same thing here. I'm not sure why I didn't turn the head toward the camera. I think I realized that, and I turned the head toward the camera here, but you can see how that fade goes from that midpoint there up. You might be asking, well, how come you didn't extend that fade out a little bit longer? Well, because his hair on top has got to be able to lay down. So we want to make sure we get that right. Again, this is kind of a lower fade. This isn't a mid fade. In fact, the mid fade would go this is kind of a high-low fade, to be honest. This isn't like the dictionary's definition, picture example of what a low fade looks like, but I would put this in a low fade category, mainly because of the way, see how it drops back in the back? A mid fade would probably go to the bottom of his crown, but the low fades tend to drop more down the back of the head. So now after I've got the fade done, which you didn't get to see, but you get to see it on the right side, so there you go. Now I'm doing some clipper over comb work, lifting those hairs up, making sure that they fall through. Okay. I didn't do my trimmers on the back. I must have done them on the sides, but I didn't. I should have done that. Save some time by doing that first, right? And now I'll come back in with that clipper. Same thing. So now where I've left off with those trimmers. And if you notice when I use the trimmers, I came at it at an angle. I didn't make a line in the hair. I know that's popular. But here's the thing. When you make a line in the hair, you have to take a line out. If you don't make a line in the hair and you make that sort of jagged, you do some like a jagged pattern. When you come back in with those regular clippers and you do that scooping motion and you gradually bring it off the scalp, it looks fine. It looks great. And I'm not having to scrub a line forever. Put this guard on, put that guard on. For as many guards as some barbers put on and off, I have never seen how that's a very economic, efficient way of cutting hair. I'll say economic because you're just not making as much money when you're having to spend an hour on a haircut, but you're still charging the same. So we got that cleaned up. Now we're ready to work on the top. Yeah. Now he combs his hair to the right. So we do our thing. We're gonna do that guideline down the middle. Notice I'm getting nice and short on the front. I'm actually pulling the hair forward. A lot of guys pull the hair straight up, but I'm pulling it forward because that's what his scalp does. It actually rolls, tends to go down toward his forehead. We don't have square heads, so you shouldn't be pulling the front of the hair straight up. You should be pulling that forward, and then the hairs on the front need to be just a little bit shorter, and then they gradually get longer as you work back toward the crown. You don't want to make the mistake of making that crown short, or what? Look like alfalfa. Pretty great mustache, huh? We're gonna skip the styling on this video and so show you how I style the mustache. One of these videos maybe I'll have to show you how to trim a long mustache, which I didn't do in this video, but okay. So now we've got the guideline, we're coming across. See how big those shears are? Now I'm grabbing enough hair that I can actually have to do 2 cuts. But you have those little baby cosmetologist shears, you have to do like 5 cuts on the top of the head. Remember, time is money. No reason to have tiny shears if you can have big ones. If you got big hands, get some big shears. The reason those cosmetologist shears are so small is most cosmetologists are women, and they have smaller hands than men. So if you're barbering, even if you're a woman, man, get some big shears anyway, because it's just so much better work on the beards. You can get a good line on that beard when you trim a long beard. Okay, yeah, so you see here I'm doing 2 cuts here on purpose because I'm curving over the head. It's a good angle for that. See, I'm curving the cut. So there and there. Because his head curves, turns out. It is round. So that's why I'm doing that. And if you notice, again, I'm cutting in the direction of his hair, where his hair wants to go. I'm not taking my clippers and going, 90 degrees off of this because it's more comfortable, if that's what I want to do. If I do that, when he goes to comb his hair, you'll see lines in it. It's gonna look like a cheap haircut. We don't want that. Okay, so now, because I don't want to have to grab those tiny little hairs on the bottom, I can just pick them up and then as I'm working that comb up and I'm continuing to cut with my shears, I am connecting one to the other. Here I'm pulling that front fringe forward a little bit. Here I'm just making sure, yep, see, look at that. Just making sure, doing that little check. If you're an efficient hair cutter, then you'll have time. I've said this before. Get through your haircut and you'll have time to do those little refining cuts when you're done. Here's a little pickup, shear over comb. These little finishing touches. This is something I do last. I don't think I ever do a shear over comb until I'm ready to be done with the side. See how nicely that lays? Yeah. Okay, so now we got to finish the top, right? So we did the one side, the right side. Now we got to connect the middle of the top to the sides so that we can finish up with the top. And that's where he parts his hair. See, if you cut it right, you don't have to do that thing where you cut it short up to the part line and then have long hair coming from the part line forward so that when he goes home and tries to comb his hair, he's got long hairs dangling down. Notice I'm going over the part line right now. That's the part. And I'm connecting the hairs. So that when he parts it, it doesn't matter where he parts it on his head, it'll still look great. If you have to cut the hair short up to the part line and then you got this long doofy hair on the top, you got yourself a real amateur looking cut. Shouldn't do that. And anybody who insists on a haircut like that, they need to watch some classic films or something. Take a look at what a good haircut looks like. Okay, here again, just refining cuts. These aren't first cuts, these are just me going through and checking the haircut. Just make sure it looks good. See how much faster these cuts go? Now I would consider a taper fade. A taper fade would be one that would definitely not have that skin exposed on the right and left side of his neck behind his ear. There would be no skin exposed on a taper fade. That would all be still pretty filled in with hair, and the only spot faded would be on the lower portion of the neck and then on the sideburns. Okay, that would be a taper fade. But a low fade is when you start drifting up away from that natural hairline on the sides, or the borders of the hair, if you will. That would be a low fade. So yep, just making sure the back looks good. His hair is really great. It's full, and if you notice, I didn't apply any... I remember in school they used to have this stuff. Like, it was like sheer liquid or some kind of fluid you put on the hair before you cut it. It was like, I can't remember what it's called. Somebody can comment on there if they remember what it's called, like cutting spray or something like that. Anyway, you don't need to do that. You should be cutting the hair dry. Notice I didn't put anything in his hair before I cut it. It's all dry. And here, yeah, again, since I have time, I'm gonna just go ahead and touch this up over here, over there. I've said this before, but when it comes to perfection, perfection can cost you money, right? If your pursuit of perfection or the perfect haircut is leading you to go over time, over the allotted time, then you're just robbing from yourself, okay? I'm still within plenty of time for this haircut to be able to just kind of do those refining cuts, get it up to my standards, which are my client standards. Just some light eyebrow trimming. When it comes to eyebrows, make sure you're only cutting the eyebrow hairs that seem to be longer than the other ones, as a rule of thumb. I mean, you definitely don't want to just start whacking eyebrow hairs because you think they're too long. There are a few exceptions of when somebody comes in and they literally, every single hair that grows out of their eyebrows seems to be like insanely long. And you may have to cut every one of those. But for the most part, most guys, there's just one or two that seem to be, deviating from the quota of eyebrow length. So you want to take care of those ones and leave the rest alone. Eyebrows look good. You should leave those the way they are. This is one of my most friendly clients. He's really great. Okay, now that we've got the drape off, we're just going to go through and make sure we didn't miss any hairs on the neckline. We're going to go through and make sure we didn't miss anything above the ear, right? This is just the finishing touches. Just want to make sure you didn't leave anything goofy on their hair, right? So if you notice, the other thing too, when you do a guardless haircut, you don't ever have to knock their head around, you know? It's a habit that clients have. If I get somebody new, I've even had clients that have been seeing me for over a year, and they still, as soon as I put the drape on and I start on the back of their neck, they put their head down. I have to pick their head back up because I don't need them to put their head down because I'm not using guards. When you use guards, you have to kind of push the head around, push it this way, push it that way. And, you know, to be honest, personally, I don't like people touching my head like that. So, if you cut hair like this, you don't need to push their head around. Nope. They can hold their head high. They don't, I mean, he's even got his head pushed a little bit further forward. You see that? He doesn't need to do that. I can work with it, but he can just hold his head natural, which is comfortable. All right, little vacuum. Get that hair cleaned up. I like to take you through the whole thing. And the reason is because if you're learning how to do the guardless method or really learning how to barber at all, I want you to pay attention to how I do the whole thing. I want you to pay attention to how I run my hands through the hair, how I'm not whapping his ear with the comb. Because when you're just learning, there may be little details in the little things that you're missing. How you fold the paper towel to put it under his neck. How you apply lather. Okay, I pull the lather in my right hand and then I apply it with the back of my fingers on the left hand. See that? That warm lather as it goes across. And I always start with the right ear and then I go to the left ear. It's the same movements, the same moves, and my clients come to expect that. If that's nice and moistened with the lather, we're going to come through and do that little nice smooth strokes with my razor. I keep thinking how I need to make a actual video on shaves, which I will. Maybe if enough people comment about it in the comment section. Do a shave. I can do a shave. And my shaves are... it's one thing in this world I can't stand. It's gimmicks. Doing extra stuff that doesn't actually do anything. It just... you know, just wastes time. Everything should have a reason. Some things may seem superfluous. How do you say that? Some things may seem useless, but like even when I put on aftershave, it makes a difference. Okay, so I just shot forward in time here. Wow, look, the hair's already styled. What I'm doing here is I'm sort of demonstrating how I style a mustache. So I'm wet. I got a little wet. Now I've got some... I use actually Dapper Dan matte paste. You can also use a clay. Shiner Gold's got a good clay for that. And then you can put that in your hand just a little bit and then put it in both fingers, and then you're just gonna kind of apply that, as you can see. Just kind of work it in. Don't be bashful about this. I know that's hard thing to learn in barbering is how to just dive in and touch people. But you know what? Physical touch is part of what being a barber is, and they expect it. It's only weird if you make it weird. Don't be delicate. Don't be, you know, brutal, but don't be delicate. Okay, so we've combed through it, we've worked it through, now we're working through it one more time, and then he's pretty happy with it. He looks pretty dang good. He's ready to be on his way. Well, I hope you enjoyed it. It's the whole look. Thanks for watching. Sam out.